I've learned not to hold back when you're sitting in a production meeting or you're talking about someone, what your needs are to make an effective character. And that's what it comes down to. My needs to create this effectively for you is, depending on makeup effects, their budgets have to include a certain amount of money for a certain amount of people, for a certain amount of materials, for a certain amount of time. And if you can get through that process with them, then hopefully it will be a lot easier all the way around for everyone. What is important is that you help them understand. You don't force them to understand. What you try to do is you explain to them, you're going to put this actor through, say, a 3 to 4 hour makeup process. That's backing up the time on the clock and adding more money to your day, right? So you want to be productive with that. And the way to be productive with that is to make sure that you can shoot that out as soon as possible. Because certain makeups only have a longevity of 12 hours. I've told directors when makeups have started to fall apart, I've said, you know what? Every makeup has an expiration date. This one's right at that point. They don't like to hear that, but if you make them aware that there is an expiration time on a makeup, that there's going to be a point where you can only piece it together so long. And if they decide to shoot, say, wide shots and medium shots before they get to close-ups, and the close-up is 12 hours later in the day, and you put that makeup on at 6 in the morning, and it's 12 hours later, it's going to look like it's been on for 12 hours. Because a lot of actors will sit down and eat. You never know what they're going to eat. They will drink things. You never know what they're going to drink. Who knows what they drank the night before? If they were drinking alcohol, that has a tendency to cause problems with makeup staying on the face, because alcohol bleeds through your pores and it causes the glue to loosen. So edges will pop. Beards, mustaches, even silicone, foam, and other types of prosthetic appliances cannot withstand sweat, salt, and alcohol all at the same time. You're dealing with something, like I said, that is foreign to the body. It isn't supposed to be there. So if you approach it like that, logistically and technically, then they'll learn, hopefully they'll learn before you actually execute the makeup, that there can be problems if we wait too long to film this makeup. But those are the things that we struggle with as makeup artists when you're doing effects makeups, is how do you keep it together and also stay calm under pressure. And I think if you have a good bedside manner, if you laugh and you joke and you still give them the parameters, but you stay calm and cool and collective even when everything else is heating up around you, you can usually resolve most problems. You have to be grateful for digital artistry. We're sometimes an unhappy marriage, but we're also a marriage of convenience. And so digital technology has really helped us. And it salvages things that we can't fix. And it makes things look better that we can't do. There's a difference between the two M's. I say, when somebody says, can you do this for me? I go, makeup, miracle worker. Makeup artist, miracle worker. I'm this one. I'm makeup artist, not miracle worker. I'll do my best to kind of close the gap between the two, but I can guarantee you I'm not over on that side of the spectrum. So I'll do my best. I would have to say Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman was an amazing makeup for its time. The Mark Twain Tonight makeup on Hal Holbrook. And then what really blew me away before silicone makeups became prevalent in the past 7 to 10 years, I would have to say Salieri in Amadeus was an amazing old age makeup that Dick Smith did. And I mean, you could take a look at The Exorcist as well, but it's a whole different genre. But that also has its place in time. And Dick Smith has done some incredible work and has influenced and inspired many people to become makeup artists. And if you're even aware of the history of Rick Baker, then you know that Rick Baker was a protege of Dick Smith's. So that's how Rick Baker got going, as he started corresponding with Dick Smith. One of my goals was to eventually work for and with Rick Baker, and I did get that opportunity. So I ran the circuit in the makeup effects shops because I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about that process of developing a character outside of the collegiate environment. I really love doing character makeups. Love character makeups. Whether it's with airbrush techniques or color, stenciling, minor aging, old age makeups. I've done a lot of aliens, I've done demons, I've done vampires, and I've done gore. Gore is probably not my favorite, just because sometimes I look at what I've done and then I don't feel like having lunch that day. Because it's one of those things where really, if you throw almost enough blood at it, you can get away with it. Okay, you got a few seams that show, you've got some things that you can't repair. You know what, throw a little more goo on that. So it's actually not as complicated to do some gore makeups as it is to do the much more subtle makeups that passes reality on the screen. So subtle aging techniques are very difficult, especially with HD now. You can't hide a lot of those things, or you're just going to change a nose on somebody or a chin. Just subtle changes, and that subtle change can be a lot of work because you're changing just a few features or you're doing a very slight aging process. The camera will catch edges if you don't know how to blend off those edges and color it right. You can't be a good or effective makeup artist if you're colorblind. So anybody out there that decides they want to be a makeup artist, please make sure you're not colorblind. It's not going to work so well for you. And if you want to be in any of the unions around the country, you have to take a colorblind test. Oddly enough, my father was colorblind. Lucky enough for me, I didn't inherit that gene. I would have to say that when you go back and you trace the history of some of the greatest makeups you'll ever see, based upon the time period in which they were done and the materials available, you have to take a look at Dick Smith. And you have to take a look at Richard Corson. Because Richard Corson gave you the techniques and the tools. Dick Smith gave you the characters. Now when I go back and I teach classes or give seminars, it's easy for me to explain the basic process. Things continue to evolve. The makeup is a growing field all the time. It's a living creature. So it's never going to be the same thing all the time. Who knows what new materials will come about in the next 10 years and what we'll do with digital technology in the next 10 years too. But makeup is always going to have a place in film and television, and always for stage and dance and live performance. So there'll never be a time in the history of mankind that we probably won't need it. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for people to realize that if you choose to go into this field, you've got plenty of venues to choose from and plenty of different types of makeups that you can explore. It doesn't have to be just beauty. It doesn't have to be just bruises and gore or cuts and gashes. It doesn't have to be just age makeup. It doesn't have to be stenciling and airbrushing and Cirque du Soleil type makeups, clowns. You've got a plethora of things to choose from all across the world. Every culture has something to do with their own either traditional or tribal type makeups or ceremonial. Anything that you can think of and you want to create is out there in the world for you to discover. And with digital technology and with computers today, you just go on Google or you go on any other search engine and you say kabuki makeup, and boom, you'll get probably hundreds of books on kabuki makeup, and you can start getting the digital references, the visual references too. It's learning and studying and never stop learning and taking that and using that aptitude to be able to go out and do any type of makeup and be confident in knowing that if you study it and you practice it, it's just like being an actor or an actress. The best actors and actresses when they first get out of their training are not good. Most of them aren't. it's a lifelong journey. And what is life more than just a journey anyway? And the makeup process is a journey too. And so if you want, all you need to do is stay receptive and open, and never close your mind to somebody else, because whether they are 20 years old or 19 or 18 years old or 80 years old, they may have a technique that you never thought of. So at either end of the spectrum, somebody's discovering something or has discovered something, and if you are the receptive vessel that you can be, you can get that information from them, and you can utilize that when you need it, and then you can give that back to somebody else. Information that's not shared dies with you. So what good is it? And that's what Bill Smith taught me. He said, this information is to be shared. He said, if you don't give this information to people, what good is it to you? What good is it to the world? How did you serve the entertainment industry, or your life, or anybody else's life? By keeping it to yourself. And there's old school makeup artists that still today, they're very close knit, they're tight, they're quiet, they won't share their information, because it's like, this is my little secret, and I'm not going to tell everybody how I do it. It's like a job security thing. But that doesn't work in today's world. Don't think about it as you could lose a job to someone. Think about it as the next time they're in a position and I'm looking for work, they may remember that I shared something with them, or the other way around. You never know who's going to be the department head, the key, and the third, or the additionals. That's just the way it works in our industry. You don't have a hierarchy of where a person that's 19 years old or 20 years old could end up being a department head if they're really proficient. And somebody that's in their 40s or 50s is not working under them, because it depends on the producers and who they know. It's not just a structure of what you know, it's who you know. And so the best thing to do is to give your information, be receptive, be open, be honest, and be able to share that information with all the people that you come in contact with in a very friendly and kind and compassionate way. And then the world actually opens up to you, rather than being stingy with it. No one makeup has ever been, say, more instrumental to me than another. Every time I'm doing a makeup, I'm in the moment. I'm in that present moment. I'm there now. And as I am present, my job is to create that makeup as it needs to be. I think what I learned early on was that I just like the process. I enjoy the process, and every single time I do a makeup, I learn something, because you learn a person's face. And the simpler makeups can sometimes be rather challenging. So I tell people, and it just became my motto, and it's something that I just have stuck with all these years, I do beauties to beast and glamour to gore plus more. And it just says it all. And I don't mind tackling any one of those, as long as I know that, number one, I'm capable, number two, I've got the resources, and I have the additional talent if necessary. It was 1981. I was sitting on the floor, and my mother was sitting on the sofa in the living room. We were watching the Oscars. And it was the first time that they were going to have an annual Oscar for makeup, and I was excited. And it was Rick Baker, and he was up for American Werewolf in London. Yeah. And when he won the Oscar, I turned back and I looked at my mother and I said, I'm doing that. And she said, oh honey, we don't do those types of things. We work in factories and on farms, and it's so far removed from what we do here. And I said, you're right, you do, but I'm not going to. And I had set my goal at that point that I was going to eventually leave Michigan and come to Los Angeles and pursue a career in makeup.